I have a really bad feeling about him.
I just heard footsteps behind me.
Yes! I covered it, lifted up, it said something, and moved.
Hey, welcome to the haunted old Lavaca County Jail in Hallettsville, Texas. If y'all are ready to go inside, we can go check it out.
Let's do it.
All right. So over this way, we have our booking room. So back in the day, they'd bring you in here and get you booked in, and obviously the wall over here is not original. I think they put that up in like the early 1980s, but this is normally where they would bring you in and get you booked. We do have some photos on the wall here that show the original jail, some of the floods that we had here, the original house that was in the back that got washed away actually in that flood.
How high was the...
It was actually at the very top of that window. So it was almost 10 foot. It was between 8 to 10 feet. That's what they estimated. You hear them up there? All right.
Is that up there?
Yes, that's up there. What? So it was almost 10 foot. It was between 8 to 10 feet. That's what they estimated. They're like, come upstairs. We'll be upstairs in a minute. So again, and yes, sometimes we'll catch those bells too. You'll hear them. And that door opening and closing a lot. So if you come through here carefully and just watch your step. This was the sheriff's office. Our most well-known as far as spiritually and ghost-wise being here would be Sheriff John Hutchins. He had about 9 children. Some of them were born here, died here, had their funerals here in the back house, because back in the day, sheriffs lived here with their families. His brother, Gene Hutchins, was also one of our early sheriffs. I know John Hutchins passed, he was in his early 40s, he had a heart attack. So, but we Deborah and I very much feel his presence around us a lot. Fear is very protective. If you ever feel someone like right on you, it's usually him. He's just very curious, wants to know what's going on. And we do have some little outfits in the back. I heard that too. I was like, or something like that. Yeah, I heard it too.
I was talking to them about that.
Yeah, so we have some outfits. Y'all have to put some outfits on later and, you know, role play. They like that stuff, so yeah. So come through here. This would have been our sheriff's bedroom. The last, this room does always kind of catch me right here, a little like different. But it's weird because it's warm in here, but it's like, I don't know, you know, like, I don't know about that warmness though. So the last sheriff to live here was Sheriff Dodds and his wife Gladys. Sheriff Dodds was killed in the line of duty in the 1960s. After he passed, his wife Gladys was our one and only female sheriff of Lavaca County, but she didn't last but a couple months. She was booted out. She was voted out, so yeah, she was voted out. We do get a lot of experiences in here. At one time, we had a portal mirror that was on the wall, and it just shattered into a million pieces one day.
I think the mirror was there when we came.
When you were here last? Okay, it was like a white trim mirror, and it was hanging up there, and we were just, all of a sudden one day, just heard ka-ch. Oh God, what was that? You know, thinking it was one of these windows. But yeah, I know, right? Like, whoo, saging ourselves, yeah. But yeah, it shattered everywhere. So we've gotten.
Did anything like follow after that?
There's just been a lot of, it's interesting. Okay, so we have a lot of what we call our repeat offenders. And those are, you know, our people that are always coming back. I mean, we have people that have been here 10 times a year. They come often. And every time they've been back, I would say within the past year, they have also mentioned, like, they've called us and said, what have y'all done here? It is very different. It is very different feeling here. Like something doesn't feel right. And I mean, we're talking like people that have been here, you know, 20 times easily. And we've several teams have said, like, I don't know what y'all have done. It's like, we haven't done anything, you know, to be real honest. I mean, well, we personally haven't. We have some friends that have brought some pieces in, like from an old burning tree, an old hanging tree that was burnt, and some iron ore, which is carries a lot of energy and makes energy. So we have a lot of that in pieces around here. So I don't know if it was that in particular, but we have been told that it is very, very different feeling here. So very different.
And you just get those calls randomly? He's like,
well, yeah, whoever's here. A good friend of ours, Robbie Flores, he was here. He's here all the time. He did our Halloween event one year. And he was, what in the hell did you guys do? He's like, no, this isn't even like, okay. We had some people that flew in from Ohio. I mean, flying in from Ohio, that's expensive for people. And these people have been to Bobby Mackey's. They've been like several, you know, really, really, you know, good haunted places. Yeah. They came here and were here for a couple hours, and they messaged and were like, yeah, this was more than we could bargain for. Yeah, and we just can't stay. And we're like, well, what happened? You know, like, we want to go up now, you know, thinking, you know, oh, wow. But yeah, they said that it just got very heavy all of a sudden, and they felt like they were being lured upstairs. They did not go upstairs, but they did a ghost box session downstairs, and I get the chills every time. The ghost box kept spitting out their family members' names, like family members that weren't here, like family members back in Ohio, like first and last names. This ghost box is spitting out their names. And it made me almost cry that night. I'm like, oh, when she was telling us about this, I'm like, wow, that's like, oof. I don't know. It was very, that's a lot. I mean, I was involved in a little seance, which, oh my gosh, speaking of, off the record here. So yeah, my baby brother, he's like he does his productions and stuff and Amazon movies. And he came here recently and we did like a 2-hour seance in the front parlor. And I mean, definitely some weird stuff happened. Well, afterwards, I went back to Deborah. She has her house, her farm is like 20 minutes from here. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I drive back there, and she's not there. She was in Houston. So I go in, and it's in the middle of nowhere. It's dark, 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 okay? So I go in the house, and I'm walking towards my bedroom in the back, and all of a sudden I hear this bang. I'm like, what the hell? I walk out in the kitchen. She has this wrought iron part on her bar, and there's a cross that's like welded on, okay? This welded cross was on the ground. I'm like, dude, I made a pot of coffee. I was up all night because I'm like, yeah, I am not sleeping tonight. I mean, it was just like the timing of that was just, yeah, it was a bit much. So
whenever you did the seance, did you feel like it kind of like it broke you down a little bit? Because that's 2.5 hours of like strong trying to connect with something, and that
it does. It was very draining. It was very draining. And then I had a 20-minute drive back, which doesn't sound far, but when you're driving down a black road, like, and it's pitch black and it's 2 a.m, I mean, it feels like forever. And I was just remember being very tired and sweating a lot, even though it wasn't hot. I was just sweating a lot. It was very different. I know, right? Hot flash? No, it wasn't. I swear. We're not there yet, but you know, no, it was pretty crazy. But we have a lot of experiences in this room. 2 different teams have let me out from the closet. I don't know what the hell's in there, but I've looked. I don't see nothing. But Deborah and I, and this was like a Friday morning at like 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. We were just laid down on the bed to make sure it was even, like the slats underneath, and we got growled at, and it was the longest, loudest growl. I mean, it sounded like it was right over our heads. I was here, she was here, and I mean, she shot up and she's like, "What is that?" And I'm like, "Didn't that disturb you in the slightest?" And she's like, yeah. Like, I think we need to go outside.
I knew there was something off about this room.
Well, and that's what I tell people too. I mean, like, book a weekend, because the daytime activity, I'm telling you, from like 6 a.m. till 2 in the afternoon, and then it dies a little bit, and then it comes back. It is off the charts.
So, yeah, I'm getting, a
little chilly right now. So when the jail was originally built in 1885, this was the sheriff's parlor. Since then, it has been a lot of different things. It was a chapel at one time. In the 1960s, it was Alyssa Dodd's bedroom, because she said she used to stand in the windows and dance to her Beatles music. And then lastly, they made it a visitation room. So when I got here and Deborah got here, this room was, all the walls were paneled with like that 1970s Brady Bunch looking paneling stuff. So we didn't see the windows, the ceiling was dropped. So, you know, we didn't see any of the beautiful tin ceiling at all. You're like, ice cream? They're like, the ice cream man is here. Yeah, this is the room we did the seance in. There are some Ouija boards in this bottom drawer. One of them is from, I think, like 1900, and the other one glows in the dark. I like to use the one that glows in the dark with the old planchette. I don't know, it's just kind of fun. So again, when Deborah and I got here, you can see there's like this red line on the floor. That used to be a partition. So they'd bring the prisoners in and they would be back here, and then their families would be out here, and they'd have their visitations. It was about 4 years ago when Deborah and I and the owner of the building decided that we wanted to just tear down the walls and see what it looked like. And we were just very pleasantly surprised to see just the beautiful trim around the windows. And we had once heard glass breaking, which was weird, because then when we pulled that off, there was broken glass. And it's like, but how would it have broken? Because there was a panel up there. We do get a lot of good activity in this room. So there's a lot of
Well, that was a good way
haunted items. And I know, they're like, welcome, we're here. But it was cool too, because when we ripped the ceiling down, there was like ripped Bible pages like shoved up there. It's just kind of weird stuff. So now we're gonna go to what a lot of people think is the most interesting part of the jail. I think the entire jail is pretty interesting. But
I got a really
got a good hit. You know, we get that door, and we've tried to debunk it several times, of that door just swinging right open. MPS, Midnight Paranormal Society, was, I think, one of the first groups to actually catch that. And I mean, that door swung open. We tried to recreate, like, opening that back door. At the time, there was a door right here where there's now a window. Tried recreating it to happen, and we couldn't get it.
Is that the stairs?
No, it was upstairs. It's like a cabinet door, like. Up.
Yo, this is spiking right now.
I got hella chills. Those were footsteps.
Yo, this keeps spiking.
You can see it up here.
Like I heard it approach straight up those stairs right there.
Yeah.
I got hella chills. Like I was ready for it to like start running
I'm
down.
so excited for y'all tonight, truly. So I think one of the really coolest things about actually this entire jail is this door, because this was the original door that, and we have to keep it chained for fire marshals.
Yeah.
But this is the original door, and it just, all the original lock mechanism, the peek hole. Just think of the thousands of prisoners that have walked up and down, and the emotion of like fear and anger going up, and that energy being in this metal door, and then like, you know, you get to leave, and then joy, you know, that feeling coming, like this door, I feel like sometimes I'll just sit here and I can just feel
Yeah, I can tell you're
so
starting to get a little
much
emotional.
energy in this door. I mean, it's just like, because almost everybody that's been here has passed through here, and it's just,
To go and leave.
and it holds that, you know, it's a very powerful door for me. So a really cool thing about these cells, other than, well, they're just cool, is that they were actually constructed in 1874, and then they were brought over here and you know, erected in 1885. So it's a 100-year span between these cells and the ones downstairs, which I'll show you in a little bit. But and to be real honest, you're gonna have to excuse me, because sometimes when I come up here, I feel like they're like choking me. I'm kind of feeling that right now. So if you just give me a second, yeah. No, I'm okay. No, I'm good. Honestly, I think that sometimes they don't like that we're not here as much. because Deborah, since she bought her house about 1.5 years ago, we haven't been here as often. You know, we don't sleep here all the time anymore. Sometimes, and it doesn't do it downstairs, but sometimes when I feel like I come up here, it feels like they're like choking me.
Is there anyone up here who's affecting Lisa right now? Look behind you.
Again, as I said, these were actually constructed and actually shows in St. Louis in 1874, and then they were put up in 1885. So this over here, we have our men's side work. So if you lift this up, it unlocks.
Either I lost balance or I got pushed again.
Well, see, I lost balance coming up the stairs. So this was the male side. And again, I showed you how it can lock over here. There are 3 open cells and 1 without a door. Now, I honestly don't know if someone just took that door. Yeah. You know, that's very interesting. We had a psychic that came here one time, and she said the same thing. She said every time she tried to walk in that cell, she felt like she was gonna puke. Like she kept like gagging. So.
What happened?
I just that cell. I know we did have a male suicide in this cell. I don't know his name, but I do know the very first death in this jail was a Jacob Hornshoe. This jail has been going since 1885 and it ran to 2005. It is a very long time. We are the 2nd longest continually running jail in Texas. There have been hundreds and thousands of deaths that have occurred here and on the property. Back in the day when sheriffs changed hands, those records were destroyed. Even up until, I know, y'all hate that too, I know. Even when the jail was still running in 2005, yeah, they didn't like paperwork. So we know of very few deaths for sure that happened here. I'm not gonna make up bullshit and make up, that's just not how we roll.
Yeah.
But I do know for a fact that there are a whole lot of deaths that happen here. I mean, it's an old jail that's been going since 1885, so to 2005. So thousands of deaths. Like I said, I mean, between suicides, and custodial deaths, you know, people that worked here or were imprisoned here that may have died later on in life due to other circumstances. I mean, there's a lot of spirits here. So there's a lot of, and I think a lot of passers through. I think, you know, every time y'all go somewhere, you kind of bring someone with you. So I think it happens. I know. I know well. And it's odd because I feel so much more comfortable on this side than I do the female side. And the female side is half the size of this. And when it comes time to clean, I will happily bleach these walls. I will not go over to the women's side. I will not go in the women's side, ever. Okay, so behind you is the women's side. I do not like the women's side, so I'm not gonna physically go in there.
Okay.
We had, even though this is the female side, there was always more males in jail than females. So there was a male suicide in the room that Christian's in, the women's day room. Yeah, you. There's a suicide in there, male. I just had a really bad Ouija board session in there at one time, my very first one ever. So I don't like going in the women's cells. I feel that men get a lot more activity in the women's side, and if you are a full-figured woman, you get a lot of activity in the men's side. We had SLS cameras with the little stick figure people.
Yeah.
So one of our friends was in there, and she's a beautiful full-figured woman, and we got the SLS. Clear as day. I mean, you knew what he was doing. I mean, there was no denying what that stick figure was doing. Yeah. It was so funny.
We didn't capture this much in the beginning of our investigation. We were interviewed last time.
Right.
Because we did the interview in the AM. And then did everything else later. We got here at like 8. But that's not y'all, is it?
No, we're standing still.
Got here at like 8. But got here at like 8. But
Okay, so back before the jail was built, there used to be an original house back here, and that house belonged to the Marshal Merritt. Marshal Merritt was generous enough to donate the property for the jail to be built. So the original house that was here got washed away in the flood of 1981. We had two major floods here, one in 1941 and one in 1981, that pretty much took out the entire downstairs of the jail. There are some, some little photos that show that. So the original house, like I said, was here, and sheriffs and their families lived here up until the 1960s. Sheriff Dodds and his family was the last family to live here. So that was, when it washed away in the 1981 flood, it was replaced with this metal tin building, but it sits on the same property as the original house did. So a lot of people feel, just because we have it set up kind of homey-like, with a little couch and kitchen and stuff and a little bathroom, they feel that it's very homey and safe back here, but me sideways, it's not, okay? It is, personally, I've had experiences everywhere in this jail. On the property, in the garage, outside, the rec yard, everywhere. But a lot of stuff back here. A lot of stuff back here. A lot of teams have had stuff back here. Two of them just sat down on the couch just to rest for a little bit, and for a couple minutes, and they said, they both sat down and they went to get up, and something was holding them down. They could not get up. They said they were both looking at each other and they couldn't talk, but something was holding them down, and they left, and I hadn't heard or seen them since. Early to mid 1900s, we had a gallows, kind of where actually the bungalow was at, where I sleep, where there was 23 confirmed public hangings. So the whole property is we have a list of names. Somewhere on that wall, there's a list of all the names. So the gun holster belonged to Deputy Yankovic, who was shot and killed in the line of duty with Sheriff Dodds as they were transporting prisoners. So his son, Big Jim, Whistling Jim, donated the gun holster to us. And if you look carefully enough, you can kind of see little blood splatters on it still. Some of the stuff on the bottom, like the dice, the cards, the rosary, the gun, was donated to us by another friend who was a corrections officer in a jail, and that was some stuff he had confiscated. So, real stuff. So that's what they do in jail. They make dice out of paper and cards and, all kinds of interesting stuff. So back when they replaced the house with this metal building, this room and this room were just used as offices for the deputies and the sheriff and game warden and all that good stuff. And as you come back here, we have our walls of fame where it starts. Over the past almost 7 years of all of our teams, all of our people that have been here, a lot of the documentaries that we have. No, but we've had so many people through here. It's just been, and the thing is that if it wasn't for each and every single one of y'all, we would have nothing. We wouldn't be here. This would just be either a vacant building or demolished and nothing. And that's sad because there's a lot of amazing energy here, good and bad, and so it's very cool. So we thank y'all truly for booking it and coming and sharing your experiences with us, because it's awesome.
Thank you.
No, thank you. So in 1976, the jail needed some more room, so they added an addition, which pretty much covered up almost the entire front of the jail. So we had a walkway, we had a 911 room, we had 2 restrooms, a closet, and a sheriff's office / break room.
All right here?
Well, actually from here all the way to that corner was covered up. It was just a box. It was the ugliest box. So it took, you couldn't see the front of this jail at all. It was hideous. So yeah, my husband 2 years ago, one big piece of equipment, there he is over there, woohoo. In 6 days, took this entire, brick walls. It was very nerve-wracking because we had no idea what it looked like underneath here. So as each piece was coming down, Deborah and I were standing in the street crying, holding each other like, oh my God, because, you know, if that was all up, pardon my language, I mean, that's a lot of money to fix. So we were so grateful that when all these pieces came down, I mean, the jail looked perfect. It looked so good. So again, from the upstairs and the downstairs cells, there was a 100-year span.
Ooh, yeah.
So chill. I actually did too. So those two front cells that you are looking in right now, those were our drunk tanks. Hello? Did you hear something?
I thought it did.
Okay. Those were like, yes, those were our drunk tanks, or if you were, you know, going to be going to court and they just needed to hold you, holding cells, basically. I called them drunk tanks, but whatever. That's what those were for. The locking mechanisms for these cells do work as well. Just crank, crank, crank. So this was our male side. We did have a quote unquote male suicide in this cell here. And this was their day room. So what the jailers would do is they would shut that door and they would leave these cells open. There was a camera there, so they could go back and forth. You know what's interesting is, okay, so the upstairs cells, you know how they're little squares? Mm-hmm. So they have them strategically placed to, like, you can't use both of your eyes to look out of one square. So it's like a mind fuck thing, which is kind of crazy for 1847 or 1874 for them to think that way. But inside of these is a thing that spins. So you think you're going to take a knife and cut through here. No, you get halfway and you're getting to this thing that just keeps spinning back and forth. So you'll never get out, you know. So it's like a waste of time. But just those little things they think of, I guess, to prevent escapees and whatnot. But we shot a music video in here too. It was so much fun.
I really like the shot when you were upstairs.
And in here we have our women's side. Although they did house men over here as well if they needed a room. We did have a male suicide in this cell in the 1990s as well. Both the suicides were in the 1990s. I feel men get more activity on this side than women do. I know, tell me about it, because you like the men, you little whores.
Same thing happened on that side just now.
Y'all can come out, you don't have to stay in bed. Come on out and play. It'll be an exciting night. This side does face out to the street, which is why you're gonna hear more noise over on this side. I know.
Are you angry? Is that why you're pounding on the walls?
Jesus Christ.
Oh my God.
Y'all, that got me too, okay? And when I am here, I will be patrolling the property. I have a gun and nobody's gonna, you know, don't worry about it.
Yeah, we have a stun gun too. So.
Okay. Oh, mine, I pew pew I don't play. No, I pew pew boo boo, I don't play. Well, no, we were told to by the cops. They're like, oh, y'all always need to carry. Okay,
I mean,
fine with me.
Y'all are out of jail.
Exactly.
I just want to say thank you for having us here and thank you for this awesome walkthrough interview. This is honestly one of the creepiest places I've been to. So I'm really excited to be here again and to put some awesome evidence for you guys.
Well, we're super happy to have y'all back, and I'll be right next door if you need me to come hold you. That'll be all right. It'll be all right, I promise.
All right. Well, thank you so much, and let's get started.
Have a fun night.